I won't forget the life I promised myself. Not when it gets hard. Not when the road feels longer than I thought it would. Not when people misunderstand me, laugh at me, or try to convince me that my dreams are too far out of reach. I won't forget because that promise wasn't made in a moment of weakness. It was made in a moment of clarity. The life you promised yourself is not built in one day. It's built in the small decisions you make daily when no one is watching. That truth is heavy, but it's also freeing because it tells you that greatness is not some overnight miracle or a grand explosion of success that happens all at once. It's built brick by brick in the quiet moments, in the decisions you make when nobody else will ever know the difference. It's in whether you hit snooze or get up. It's in whether you scroll for hours or open that book. It's in whether you push through the last rep or give up because no one is there to see you quit. Those little choices matter more than you realize, and they are either building or breaking the promise you made to yourself. Every day gives you an opportunity to show yourself who you are, not who you tell people you are, not who you pretend to be when the spotlight is on, but who you actually are when the lights are off, when the camera isn't rolling, when no audience is there to applaud you. That's where the truth is found. And the truth is that success is less about what you do in public and more about the discipline you practice in private. The life you promised yourself is waiting on you to show up consistently in those hidden moments because that is where transformation is born. Think about the people you admire, not the highlight reels, not the end result, but the process they lived through. Every single one of them built their lives on small, repeated actions that compounded into something great. You don't see the countless nights they spent working while the rest of the world slept. You don't see the sacrifices they made when nobody believed in them. You don't see the silent battles they fought within themselves to keep going when giving up would have been easier. And that's why their success looks like it happened overnight. But it didn't. It was carved out of those daily moments of choice. The hardest part is that nobody is going to clap for you when you make those decisions. Nobody is going to pat you on the back when you choose discipline over comfort. Nobody is going to post about your quiet consistency when you resist temptation or stick to the routine that doesn't yet have visible results. And that's why so many people quit. They're addicted to being noticed. But the life you promised yourself doesn't get built on attention. It gets built on persistence. It gets built on doing what's right for your future, even when your present self doesn't feel like it. And here's the thing. Those decisions may look small, but they carry enormous weight. Think of them like drops of water. One drop doesn't seem like much. 10 drops barely get noticed. But when you keep showing up day after day, drop after drop, it becomes a stream. Then it becomes a river. And eventually it carves valleys, it reshapes landscapes, it creates something powerful and undeniable. That is what your daily discipline does to your life. The promise you made to yourself will not be fulfilled by one big leap, but by thousands of small, steady steps that never stop moving forward. There will be days when you feel like those steps don't matter. Days when progress is invisible, when it feels like nothing is changing, when you're tempted to think that one choice doesn't matter. That one skipped workout, that one broken commitment, that one time you let your emotions win over your plan. But those moments are dangerous because they train you to break trust with yourself. And the more you break that trust, the further away you drift from the life you promised yourself. On the other hand, every time you keep your word to yourself, you strengthen your identity. You start to see yourself as the kind of person who follows through, and that identity becomes unshakable. What matters most is not what you occasionally do, but what you consistently do. The difference between the person who achieves the life they promised themselves and the person who doesn't is rarely talent or intelligence. It's discipline. It's whether they chose to keep showing up, keep doing the small things, keep stacking up wins when no one else noticed. And that is something entirely in your control. Nobody can take that from you. Nobody can do it for you. Nobody can give you that consistency. You either practice it or you don't. The beauty of this is that you don't need to wait for some perfect moment to start. You don't need to have the perfect plan, the perfect resources, or the perfect circumstances. All you need is the ability to make one decision right now that aligns with the life you promised yourself. And then you make another one, and another one, until it becomes a habit, until it becomes your identity, until you look up and realize that those small, invisible decisions have transformed your reality in a way that looks impossible to everyone else. The life you promised yourself is patient, but it's also demanding. It won't show up unless you do. It won't arrive just because you wished for it, prayed for it, or dreamed about it. It only comes to the version of you that refuses to let excuses steal what's meant for you. Every time you choose to keep going, every time you resist the urge to quit, every time you honor the promise in the quiet spaces of your life, you are laying another brick. And one day, those bricks will stand as proof of the promise you refuse to forget. Forgetting your promise means choosing regret over growth, and that's a burden you should never accept. When you make a promise to yourself, it is more than just a thought or a wish. It is a declaration of who you intend to become and the life you intend to live. Breaking that promise is not just about missing a goal, it's about betraying yourself, and that betrayal cuts deeper than any outside failure ever could. Regret is heavy, it lingers in the back of your mind, it creeps into your quiet moments, it makes you wonder what could have been, and that weight is far more painful than the temporary discomfort of discipline. Growth, on the other hand, might hurt in the moment. It might stretch you beyond what feels comfortable, but it never leaves you with the sting of wondering what if. Every time you walk away from the life you promised yourself, you are choosing regret, and regret is merciless. It doesn't fade quickly. It doesn't forgive easily. It shows up when you see someone else living the life you wanted. It shows up when you realize opportunities slipped through your fingers because you were unwilling to endure short-term struggle. It shows up when you look in the mirror and recognize that you are not who you said you would be. And that realization doesn't just sit quietly, it eats at you. It erodes your confidence, it makes you doubt your worth, and it convinces you that maybe you were never capable in the first place. That is the poison of regret, and it is a poison you pour into your own life when you abandon your promise. Growth, however, demands something different from you. It demands sacrifice, consistency, patience, and resilience. It demands that you keep going when results don't show up right away. It demands that you stretch yourself in ways that feel uncomfortable and exhausting. But here's the difference: growth pays you back. It pays you back in strength, in wisdom, in confidence, in the undeniable sense of pride that comes from knowing you didn't give up on yourself. Growth is like a muscle. It might tear and ache in the process, but it rebuilds stronger every single time. Regret only weakens you, but growth transforms you. People often think regret and growth are distant from each other, but the truth is they are always competing in the same space. Every decision you make tips the scale one way or the other. When you skip the effort, when you let fear decide for you, when you trade discipline for comfort, you are tipping the scale toward regret. When you push through discomfort, when you keep your word to yourself, when you choose patience instead of quitting, you are tipping the scale toward growth. That scale is in your hands every single day, and the outcome of your life will be determined by which side you continue to feed. The life you promised yourself requires growth, and growth doesn't feel good while it's happening. It doesn't give you immediate rewards. It often feels like you're moving backwards before you move forward. That's why so many people choose regret, because regret disguises itself as comfort in the moment. Regret whispers, take the easy way, you can try later, you deserve to relax, it doesn't matter today. But later turns into never, and easy turns into empty. Regret sells you comfort up front, but sends you the bill in the form of a lifetime of dissatisfaction. Growth does the opposite. Growth charges you up front with discipline, with sacrifice, with effort that few people see. But then it rewards you with a life you can look back on without shame. Forgetting your promise is the slowest kind of self-destruction. You don't feel it all at once. It creeps in little by little. One skipped day becomes two become a week, and soon you no longer recognize the person you're becoming. You rationalize, you justify, you tell yourself you'll get back on track tomorrow. But tomorrow keeps moving further away. And the worst part is that deep down you know the truth. You know you're abandoning the very thing you once said mattered most. That's why regret stings so sharply, because you can lie to others about your effort, but you can never lie to yourself. Growth, in contrast, is slow but honest. It doesn't always show up in big visible wins. Sometimes it's just the quiet progress of knowing you kept a promise no one else even knew you made. It's the discipline of waking up when you didn't want to, of saying no to what doesn't serve you, of doing the work without applause. That doesn't look glamorous, but it is the foundation of the life you promised yourself. Growth is built in silence, and when it finally speaks, it speaks loudly enough that no one can ignore it. The truth is, regret and growth will both hurt you. One hurts in the moment, the other hurts for a lifetime. Regret hurts when you realize you could have been more, but chose less. Growth hurts when you push yourself beyond what you thought you could handle, but that pain is temporary and it makes you stronger. You have to decide which pain you're willing to carry, because one fades and leaves you better, while the other stays and leaves you broken. Forgetting your promise is choosing regret, and choosing regret is the same as choosing to betray yourself. No outside failure can compete with the damage of knowing you abandoned yourself. You don't control everything in life, but you do control whether you keep the promises you make to you. And when you choose growth, even if you fall short, even if progress is slower than you wanted, you can live without regret because you know you showed up, you know you fought, you know you honored your word. That is a life of strength, and that is a life without the crushing burden of what could have been.